Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me is my co hosts, David Caries, Andrew Quinn, and Seamus Zarlingo. And we are here to discuss some playoff basketball, some Payton Pritchard action, and we got episode 35 presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. So, we just talked about this before we started the podcast. I was like, oh, let's brush up on game one. But David reminded me, come on, Griffin. We have you guys not? Oh, there goes my light. Have you guys not heard about game one enough? Like, I mean, there's so many opportunities to listen to game one. You have a billion interviews with Celtics Talk Weekly. You have the post game show. You have the recap. So I think you guys know a lot about game one. But we don't know about Jason Tatum. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of content on him, so we'll talk about him a little more. But one thing I do want to ask is, how are you guys feeling after game one? David, we'll start off with you. We'll go Andrew, Seamus, me.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest question obviously is what's going to be happening with Jason Tatum. It looks like he's not going to play today. He's doubtful in the injury report, but feeling after game one, feeling optimistic. I mean, the theme of the season, I said this ad nauseum on this program, is that the Celtics really haven't played too many perfect games from October up until this point this season, but they've done enough to win. I really like the way we played in that third quarter specifically, getting up 24 shots, playing a little bit faster. I was at the game. It was a great atmosphere. It's a fun time watching all that unfold too. And, we didn't play perfect. I thought we did a great job matching the defensive intensity. I didn't think that I didn't have too many problems with any of the shots we took. Of the 37 three-pointers we took in game one, I was probably fine with 30 of those looks, and we were just taking what the defense was giving us. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit irritated heading into halftime of that one with us being down 1 point, but we really turned it up in that third quarter. Yes, I would say just as much. We had this interview with Philip yesterday, who's a reporter for the Magic. I would say just as much as the Celtics winning the game on Sunday was as much as the Magic gave us, but that's what championship teams do against inexperienced, injury-riddled seven-seed teams. So I'm feeling good. Just got to keep taking care of business at home. Obviously, that was the biggest thing from the season. One of my big takeaways is we weren't as dominant at home this season as we were last season. So, you just want to go up 2-0, try and do it without Tatum, because 1-1 it gets a little bit too interesting and too close for comfort.
I want to add something on really quick. So I heard game one tickets were in the cheaper realm, which is great. I wish I could have went Easter, So how do you enjoy yourself there? Was it fun? How was the playoff energy? I went to a playoff game back in 22 against the Hawks. They ended up losing, but it was still such a fun atmosphere. How Just tell me about it. I'm excited to hear about this really quick. And then Andrew will get on to you.
Yeah, so it was great. We took the subway in. We got there at like 12:30 into Boston, and it was funny. I think that yeah, there was like really not much of a buzz when we first got there, which was a little weird to me. I was thinking that people were going to be camped
Wow.
outside the Garden or North Station hours beforehand. And quick shout out to a contributor to this podcast, Ricky Defense. I think I actually walked past him when I was on my way to a restaurant. I wasn't a
Oh,
hundred
no
percent
way.
sure, but
Ricky,
I
we
think
met
I
him
did.
at Thompson.
I think I did walk past him. So if that happens again, I'll make sure to say hello. Yeah, and then me and my cousin went to a restaurant right across from North Station called The Harp. I don't know if either of you guys have been there, but I'd highly recommend it. And yeah, we ate there, went inside, we made our way through all these different street reporters that were, filming content right outside North Station for the Celtics game. And we got in there, and the crowd was rocking. I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but the crowd has definitely been better. In at least last year when I went to the playoff games, this one was a little bit quiet at times, but I mean, it's a Boston sports playoff game. They're always going to show up in some capacity, and
It's
yeah, I
Easter,
was
too.
happy.
It's Easter. I'll give them the
True.
benefit of the doubt.
And yeah, I mean, it was just a heck of a time. Very fortunate to have the seats where I had them on the lower level. I'm actually going to the game again tonight. I'll be sitting up in the balcony, so that'll be a
Uh,
different experience there. But yeah, I had a fun time with my cousin. That was the first time we went to a playoff game, And yeah, he said that's an experience he'll never forget. So I'm glad I was able to give that to him.
That's fun. Andrew, your thoughts and opinions on game one?
Yeah, I thought we looked great. I thought defensively we really, like David said, we matched their intensity, and it just seemed like we really ratcheted it up. Um, I thought from an offensive perspective, we had 26 fast break points compared to Orlando's 4. So just that obviously shows our recipe that we just need to push the pace and really make the Magic speed up their basketball and play into our hands. And then just one thing I guess from Magic did have a lot of opportunities on the offensive glass, but they weren't able to really capitalize on that. They only had 11 second chance points compared to Boston's 17. So maybe if that's an area of improvement for us, I mean it's not a crazy big thing to think about, but just maybe we always want ways to improve to give us a better chance of closing out the series as soon as possible. So just maybe we can work on the offensive glass a little better and just make sure to keep them off them. But other than that, I think we look good, and I just think in this series, I just don't think that the Magic can really have an answer for us and for the rest. Like they have an answer, but they can't. I just don't think they have enough to win the series. And then Tatum, obviously, it's concerning. I know it's a bone bruise. Hopefully he'll be okay for the next game. But I mean, we've seen Tatum this season. He seems like he wants to lay it all out for the fans, and he seems like he has that mentality of not letting injuries get to him. So hopefully this injury is the same.
Yeah.
It's game one, and we've already reached a state of chaos. Already. Game one of the NBA playoffs. Can we just see nobody on the injury report for 5 minutes? 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Game one, I can't lie. At the beginning of game one, I didn't like the way in which the Celtics were playing whatsoever because they were playing 100% into the Magic's hands. What the Magic have to do in order to win this series is slow the pace of the game, grab every offensive rebound attempt possible, grab every defensive rebound, and they also need to force turnovers themselves, get to the free throw line, and win within all of the little margins on the floor. That's what the Magic need to do in order to win this series. They need to win all of the hustle stats, all of the extra categories, in which gets them more shots than the Celtics while also keeping the Celtics shot attempts low. Game one, the Magic executed that perfectly in the first quarter. Now, the Celtics came out with a lead after one, but you saw it was a tough fight. I mean, it was going back and forth for most of the quarter. Celtics started to pull away at the end, but it was a tough fight. And then at the end of the first half, the Magic eventually come back and grab that 1 point lead before the Celtics turn it up to a new level in that third quarter and fourth quarter to close out the game. Now, I expect the Celtics to play how they did in the third and fourth quarter throughout most of the series. And I think how game one went was how many of these games are going to go. I think it's going to be the Magic. They're going to be physical, tough early on, but we're going to see the Celtics sprint past the Magic as these games go along. Because the Magic, look, 86 points in game one. The Celtics, they only score 103. 103, that's it. And they still defeat the Magic by 17. It's going to take a really awkward game for the Orlando Magic in order to win this, not the series, but just a game in the series. And when I say awkward, I mean unconventional, right? They're going to have to win it in a way in which the variance tilts in their favor. They make a bunch of 3 pointers randomly, they make a bunch of shots that they don't typically make, and they win the ball game. Otherwise, the Celtics are just going to simply outscore the Magic every single game this series, which is why Franco and I came on here and went Celtics in four. We seemed like total homers, but breaking down the series, like, well, the Magic, are they going to score over 100 points in any of these games and defeat the Celtics in any of these games? Like, I don't really know. That being said, Jason Tatum, he is now doubtful for game two, which means he will probably not play, which certainly changes the complexity of the series a little bit because coming into the series, what's what's so terrible is before the series I was talking about Jason Tatum, he is the X factor of the series because if you look at the 1-2 record from the regular season, the Orlando Magic in those two games in which they defeated the Celtics did not have Jason Tatum. No, not on December 23rd, down in Orlando, or this past week. Obviously, the top six, or 2 weeks ago, I should say now, that the top six wasn't in the rotation. That to me signals how big Jason Tatum is for the Boston Celtics, among many other things within his game. But just the fact that you play 2 games against the Magic on the road, you struggle in both of them because of the Magic's high level of defense, and you don't have your superstar. The Celtics are going to run into the same problem again tonight at the Garden. Jaylen Brown's going to have to do a lot more. There's going to be more pressure on Jaylen Brown, period, in this game. And that worries me because Jaylen Brown, this was supposed to be kind of a you go out there and float type of series for him and don't,
Yeah.
ramp up the minutes with Jaylen Brown because we know he's dealing with that knee injury. Well, now the complexity changes from that regard because you're giving Jaylen Brown more responsibility if you're Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff. Now that Jason Tatum's out of the lineup, and that changes the whole dynamic of the game, both for the Celtics and the Magic, and how the Magic, particularly, are how they're defending the Celtics. And so, moving forward in this series, I do think we have, some. From what we saw in Game One, I would say that's typically how the series or most games in this series should go. That being said, with Tatum out of the lineup, you could see a little bit of a change within that. And the Celtics, we've been talking about it this season, their margin for error is a little slimmer than it was last year. And by a little, I think a lot compared to last year, looking at some of the teams out in the Eastern Conference and particularly the Western Conference, if the Celtics make it to the finals. This Tatum injury, it's causing pure chaos. Like, people are kind of, they're kind of more optimistic, they're calm about it. But I'm sorry, I just saw Jason Tatum fall on his wrist. It's not like an injury we just hear about where, JB's injury, we started hearing about it. It's like, oh, his knee, sore knee. It's like, when did that happen? We don't really know. Jason Tatum, we saw Jason Tatum take a hard fall on his wrist. And yep, there's the photo right there. Jason Tatum holding his wrist and staying down on the ground for quite some time. Then you have Joe Mazzulla over on the sideline yelling, "Get up," which
Yeah,
is
and
just
can I interrupt? And then you have like the medical staff about going over, and he's like, "No, get back!" Like, he's like, "No, stay away." He's like, "Get up, come on!" Like, that's what I love about Joe Mazzulla, because come on, this is gonna start some controversy in here, I feel like. But finish your take. I'll give you my take, and then we'll dive right into the Tatum thing, because
you left us on a
I feel
cliffhanger there.
yeah, I know. But this might start something. I'm saying. I don't want to say it yet. Continue your take,
Well,
Seamus.
I don't know
Continue.
why it's why Joe Mazzulla's like get up thing is such a talking point. It's like, this man, if you've really been paying attention to him all season, he's been a psycho all
Yeah.
year. He was a psycho coming into this season, and he's not going to stop being a psycho at the most intense time of year. Like, that's just not going to happen. And that's what we saw in Game One from Joe Mazzulla. But that whole incident happens, of course, and to me, it's like, yeah, this is causing utter chaos because half the fan base like, oh, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. Joe Mazzulla, he's hiding it within his press conference. Like, he's not really direct. Obviously, coaches and players, they don't directly tell the media anything anymore. But Joe Mazzulla, if you watch his press conference yesterday, he knew about Jason Tatum's injury, and even after Game One, it's like there was some level of concern there. It was, there's a lot of virtue signaling within the injury report and press conferences. You don't get anything direct, but you could just kind of put the pieces together, add the equation, and get the answer. And that's what's happening with this Jason Tatum injury. I think it's I personally, bone bruise, like, that's another term where I look at it and go, we don't really know anything. It's like an impingement or a contusion, or it's like a bruise. What we do know is it's not broken. That's great. That's the most optimistic silver lining point there. But still, a bone bruise still is going to affect how he's able to handle the ball, how he's able to shoot, and potentially how the Celtics utilize Jason Tatum moving forward in this series. They could be utilizing Jason Tatum more as a decoy and somebody who goes down towards the rim more often than not. So it's going to be looking at Jason Tatum. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what he looks like in the next game he appears in, and how much time he could potentially miss, because he's doubtful tonight. Which I would say the virtue signaling there is definitely not playing tonight, but we believe he's going to play in game 3 or game 4 into the future. That's the thing about this wrist injury. It's not anything with Tatum's ankles, knees, anything on his legs. He's still able to run up and down the floor, still able to play defense. Just offensively, what is Tatum? How is he going to look with that wrist injury? What kind of pain tolerance can Tatum actually fight through? And where how much can this affect his game potentially in the future? And that's beyond just the first round. It's like, say, first round, say we make it out just fine. What is Tatum going to feel like second, third, fourth round? I'll say this. I'm a little more optimistic about Tatum's injury than I was Brown's, because Brown's is a knee. It's something he has to utilize in order to move around the court, side to side, vertically. Whereas Jason Tatum, it's his wrist. It's like he can still play the entirety of the playoffs on a bum wrist. Jaylen Brown can't play the entirety of the playoffs on a bum knee. There's a difference there. But Jason Tatum, we know how effective he is as a scorer, as a playmaker, as a player with the ball in his hands. And if that's stripped away from himself, the value of Jason Tatum certainly goes down. It's still there, even though his wrist is injured. However, his value goes down significantly. And I think this talking point within the series is huge all of a sudden, because it's game 1, like game 1 of the NBA playoffs, and we're already talking about Jason Tatum, our superstar MVP candidate. He's probably not going to play game 2. We don't know about game 3, and we simply don't know about his status altogether, other than just a bone bruise, which we don't know how serious that is, or what the pain is in Jason Tatum's wrist, or what the mobility is in his wrist. And I got to say, I don't want to go complete catastrophe mode disaster, but these are the type of things that 100% wipe out playoff runs. Look at last year, the Miami Heat. They missed Jimmy Butler on the floor. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they missed Donovan Mitchell. Even the Celtics, they missed Kristaps Porzingis. Round 3, no Tyrese Halliburton. Round 4, the Dallas, to me, it's like, Dallas wasn't really missing anybody. But Luka Doncic was apparently injured in that series after game 1, after he got beat in game 1, literally physically beat up in game 1. It's like, oh, he's injured. But you see these injuries 100% derail playoffs, a playoff pursuit towards the title for a lot of teams. And the fact the Celtics are already dealing with an injury to their top star, while also dealing with an injury for their second star on the roster, the top 2 pillars of the roster, knee injury, wrist injury. It's like, these are the things we obviously know from 2009, Kevin Garnett. And I'm trying to think of more I feel like I had a better example of a playoff injury, even more so than Kevin Garnett as of late, that I'm trying to mine out of my mind. I know we had Marcus Smart injuries in the playoffs, but I don't know if that went quite as far. Regardless, Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, right, yeah. But you look at all the history and these injuries in history, they have the potential to just wipe out playoff series. I mean, Derrick Rose in 2012, he tears his ACL, and the Bulls go from a 1 seed to somebody who's losing in the first round to an 8 seed Sixers team before the Celtics and Sixers face off in the semifinals that year. That's just what happens in NBA history. If you don't have your best players out there on the floor in the most important moments of the season, probably not going to have the greatest chance to win against a team who does have the best players out there. And that's why this injury is so concerning. It should be so concerning for everybody in Celtics Nation and the Celtics themselves. I'm not going to go full catastrophe mode and say it's going to end the playoff run and we're facing something serious with Jason Tatum, but it's something, again, we have to monitor. And I'll say this, for as great as game 1 was, winning by 17, running ahead in the second half, creating that sea of green, and overcoming the Magic from a game plan schematic perspective, even after all the great things in game 1, coming out of game 1, I'm going, really? Already. Game 2, we're going into game 2 without Jason Tatum. Already. It's like you can't, sometimes you can't even write this stuff up, but it seems to happen to the Celtics, and it happens to every team we know out there. It's not like the Celtics are bit with bad luck, as some of these other teams have been in the past. I mean, it's just about equal, but we have seen this in Celtics history before. I mean, Gordon Hayward in that Sixers series in the bubble pretty much does the same thing. Last year, Kristaps Porzingis pretty much does the same thing. After game 2, he's done. After game 1, Gordon Hayward's done. So we've been through this before. The only difference is it's been with our third option, our fourth option. This is the first option for the Celtics and Jason Tatum. And we have to remind ourselves too, Jaylen Brown, he's injured as well. And that just to me changes so many things for both the C's and the Magic in this series. I still expect the Celtics to win the series. I still expect them to handle the series. But now I do believe with Jason Tatum, however many games he's going to miss, the Magic have 100% more of an opportunity to steal a game with Jason Tatum out of the lineup versus when he's actually in the lineup. They put so much pressure on him on Sunday, where to the point where Jason Tatum wasn't effective. He now his playmaking wasn't necessarily where we've seen it this season on Sunday. But at the same time, the Magic were hounding Tatum, and that was leaving guys like Payton Pritchard and Derek White open. That Derek White 30 points, Payton Pritchard 19 points. Now without Jason Tatum out there, the gravity of Jason Tatum, like there's going to be more pressure put on Brown, more pressure put on White and Pritchard and everybody else out on the floor. Even Porzingis, who didn't have a great game 1, and so that definitely changes the complexity of the series as a whole. I'm feeling great about the win in game 1. Got to feel great about a playoff win anytime, but the way we exited the game where Jason Tatum not 100% healthy, Brown not 100% healthy. I'm looking at this playoff run already going, really? Like, the first 2 games, like we played healthy games throughout the stretch of the season, and obviously Porzingis and whoever missed time in between, and whether they were resting or actually ill or whatever happened there. But it's like, come on, we were just healthy the whole second half of the season, and now all of a sudden to the top 2 stars. If this was an injury to guys like Peyton Pritchard or somebody like, I don't know, every player on the Celtics rotation, because it's so thin, is pretty important. But like if it's Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, I don't think it's as big as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and that's what the Celtics are dealing with right now. Injuries to their top 2 stars already in this playoff run already. And I don't want to go full catastrophe mode on it, but at the same time, you gotta be a little concerned at this point in time because there's a lot of basketball left to be played and not a lot of time to rest. This is going to be the first time the Celtics have 2 days rest until potentially that when we're done with this series. We're playing 3 games, 4 games maybe. Celtics are done with the series. They'll have a couple days of rest, and then they'll be going back into it yet again every other day. And this is the most intense basketball they'll see all season, and it has to bring some concerns to Celtics Nation and everybody involved with everything. That being said, I think people still have some optimism that once round 2, once round 3 comes along, maybe that wrist will be a little bit better. Maybe that knee will be a little bit better, and the Celtics will be back on track.
Yeah, I want to say this. As you said, Tatum's doubtful for today. I'll dive into that for a second in a minute. But one thing I do have to say, in addition to your first take, is I thought the Celtics played at a fast pace to start off the game. I don't know if you guys agree, but, like, from what I was seeing, they were like it looked like playoff basketball. Yes, the Celtics weren't dominating to the speed that they want to, and the Magic were getting a lot of rebounds and just kind of dictating the pace from that perspective, but I like the physical and intense playoff basketball that they were doing. They were running, they were quick, however, that first quarter is the take I've been saying. It's gonna look like a Pacers series if they keep playing at that pace and letting the Magic play with them. Um, Overall, though, I thought game 1 was a good win. But you look at this, like you have mentioned already, Seamus. We'll hear your guys' takes, Andrew and David. We'll hear your guys' takes too. But it's concerning. I feel like this. I feel like a lot of people, you'll have mixed opinions about Joe Mazzulla's reaction and telling him, "Get up, come on," and waving off of the trainer. You guys heard it. He's doubtful for today, and that's huge. And he was in physical pain. We saw him in the pain that he was in, which makes me a little. This is why I'm kind of like, what? Because his ankle pretty much snapped against Sabonis. Like you guys remember that game, his ankle like went, and that's concerning. Like he was on the ground, but then you look and he jammed his wrist and he's like laying on the ground hurt. I want to get into a segment too and hear Andrew basketball perspective and see if you've had an injury like this or like what if you've dealt with a teammate that went through this or something. But I'm concerned. I am concerned for sure, like Seamus, but I'm not gonna get into that. This is the reason why it could cause things because I'm not putting that bad energy in the air. We gotta stay positive. I think I feel like they might have him sit today, and if the Magic get one, it probably will be today if they do sit him. Um, I think that because I think this could go to a 5-game series. I want it to go to 4. I want the sweep, and I'm gonna keep preaching a sweep. But yeah, I think this is a game where you need Tatum. I mean, Tatum is your superstar. Tatum is the best player on this Boston Celtics team, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of assets that help this Boston Celtics team become so great. But Tatum is your superstar. Tatum is that person at the top. Tatum is your Messi. Tatum is your Ronaldo. He's the guy. He's your LeBron James. I am glazing Tatum right now, but that's where he is. He's at this level. You need Tatum to play. I mean, it's a series where, yes, this is one of the top. I feel like we talked about this yesterday with Cortez. This is kind of like a series where it's an annoying one, you know? It's a series where the Magic healthy are a 3 or 4 team. You know, it's not an easy first round. I do not like playing the Magic. I don't want to hear that damn song all playoffs, you know? If you guys know, you guys know. Go watch Cortez interview. I do not want to hear that damn song. But I'm so interested to hear your guys' perspective. But I also wanted to add one conspiracy. Could this potentially, I said it with Seamus, could this potentially be like, I don't know, a little egged on? I don't know. I don't know. But David, what are your thoughts? And then Andrew, I want to hear your thoughts really quick.
Can you clarify what you mean by egged on first? I'm interested by this.
So I'm not big on this, but you have to admit, it looked like he jammed his wrist, correct? Did it not look like he jammed his wrist in the basket? Right?
Yeah.
Now that could go with a break. That could totally, if he hits it hard enough, could be a break. But I get it because I've dealt with wrist injuries. Like when I played baseball, someone threw a baseball off my wrist and it hurt. Like you couldn't play baseball. But I think it's his shooting wrist, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Shooting
Yes.
wrist. All right. So that's tough, especially have tape on it. All right, Andrew, really quick, give us a basketball breakdown, and David, we'll go right into you. Have you dealt with something like this, or has there been a
Personally, no,
player?
but one of my teammates, 2 years ago, he had some ligaments in his wrists that were actually like torn. He suffered it at the beginning of the season, and he went on to play every game. They just threw. I don't know if you guys are familiar with KT tape. It just kind of acts as like another, like kind of form of ligament, and it kind of holds the wrist better in place. So he was able to go through the season and ended up. It was also on his shooting hand, and ended up being able to lead us to a conference championship. So when it comes down to it, a lot of it is, like Seamus mentioned, your pain tolerance. Like how much, how strong are you that you're going to be able to withstand the pain and fight through it. Um, he obviously could, and he did mention though that it was painful throughout the entire season. He didn't really. He tried his best to not really show it, and help the team along. But there's plenty of ways to deal with it and find ways to make an impact on the floor than just scoring. But obviously, Tatum is our guy. He's our scorer. He pours in the points, and that's what we need him for. But yeah, I mean, there are plenty of ways to deal with it, and if it is just a bone bruise, it does seem that it's more of a pain tolerance thing for him. So it really comes down to his mentality of and what he can push through.
Yeah, David, I'm curious to hear your thoughts now, and then we'll go back to you, Andrew, to wrap it up, and then yeah. But David,
Yeah. So I'll take it back to like my first initial reaction, just seeing what happened. Seeing it live was definitely not something I had on my bucket list of seeing during a playoff game that I was going to. You definitely don't want to see your franchise player on the ground. First reaction when all that was happening was, okay, this is, to be brutally honest, just Tatum being typical Tatum, taking a little bit longer to get up. And then it's like, okay, maybe he's milking it a little bit too much. And then it's like, okay, really, I really need Tatum to get up now because, sometimes love Jason Tatum, obviously the face of the franchise, as I just said. But sometimes I feel like on plays like that, he takes a little bit too long to get up and then he just gets up and it's like, okay, everything's fine. But when I saw him on the ground, whatever it was, I think there was at least 5 minutes, at least that's what it felt like. Definitely got a little bit nervous. And then you hear after the game, I probably should have thought of it like this, but I didn't think anything of it when he said he's going to be fine and left it just like that because I'm like, I didn't even think of how short Jason Tatum was being with the media. And this is a great point I saw online where usually when it comes to stuff like that, I don't know if Tatum necessarily likes talking to the media, but he usually does a good job of giving good answers when he's at the podium about things going on. So he was short with the media when talking about the injury. Missoula said that the x-ray came back clean, which obviously I thought was a good sign. And then I went from x-rays clean, as Seamus said, to day to now he's doubtful. So yeah, definitely the red flags are popping up for me. We will see what happens in terms of his availability for the rest of the series and the playoff run moving forward. I think it's definitely, which sucks with me going to this game. Again, I want to see Tatum play. I don't expect to see him play tonight. I think tonight is going to be very interesting to see how we manage him moving forward because I think the expectation is that, whether the Celtics want to admit this or not, they probably, I mean, obviously they go into every game thinking they're going to win, but it's very hard to sweep a 4 out of 7 playoff series. So I think there's some expectation where it'll be okay for the Celtics to drop one game. With that being said, though, this is a very precarious situation for the Celtics to be in, where if they were to lose the game tonight, it's not we lose tonight and we're still up 2-1. We lose tonight, we're all tied up at one game apiece going back to Orlando. So I think if we're able to win tonight without Tatum, which would be huge, I would think personally we should still rest him for game 3 because even if we lose game 3, there's the whole, okay, we went on the road team back at home has a huge burst of energy. Plus, we were missing our best player. Not too much will be thought about if we go up 2-0 hypothetically and lose a game 3. But if we lose tonight and it's 1-1, as I said in my first take, I think the pressure is on Tatum a little bit more to push him to be ready for game 3. Now, I think regardless, he's going to try and push to do playing game 3. We've seen this movie before, literally last month with the whole situation with his ankle. But I hope if we're able to win tonight, we keep him out for game 3, and then that'll give him a whole week's worth of rest for game 4, which is coming up on Sunday. So I honestly think what happens tonight, the end result tonight, is going to be huge in determining how this injury is managed with Tatum moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that too, Griffin. When you say egg on, I mean Jason Tatum last month he came down on that ankle in Sacramento. Yeah, he's down writhing in pain on the floor, and we feel like, oh, geez, high ankle sprain, he's out a month. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, he's going to miss the rest of the season, the final 10 games. Well, that didn't happen. He missed one game, that Phoenix Suns game where the Celtics blew out the Suns by 30. Right there and then. There were a million points in the season where you could say the Suns season was over, but truthfully, without Jason Tatum that night, it's like, yeah, the Suns, they're done. But that occasion happens and Jason Tatum comes back the next night. So from that standpoint, that's a regular season game down the stretch where Celtics are nearly locked into the 2 seed. They're trying to stay healthy. Those were the 2 main goals of the second half of the season. Maintain the 2 seed, stay healthy, and then you could add a third is play well going into the playoffs. And the Celtics did all of that. And now all of a sudden Jason Tatum's injured again. I really don't think. See, this injury to me is the reason it's concerning here. If Jason Tatum wasn't injured, he'd be playing in the playoffs right now. 100%. There is no, I don't see a mentality within Jason Tatum that wants to sit out. I think actually today's game, he might actually want to play this game too. And the medical staff knows, hey, look, it's a series. David, you already mentioned it. If we drop one game, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Yes, it matters which game we drop, certainly. But if we drop at least one, it's not the biggest deal in the world. We can buy you a rest day before the travel days. And that's kind of how they're managing Jason Tatum and going about. The fact that he's doubtful and missing a game, it's like there's definitely something going on with this injury right now. Now, they say it's only a bone bruise, which means, hey, great, it's not a fracture. But could there be, something with his ligaments in there? I don't really know. Like, obviously, we would hear something about a ligament tear, and we haven't heard anything about that, so that's great. But at the same time, the way in which Jason Tatum has typically gone about his career, if he's healthy, he's playing. He's been a durable player throughout the entirety of his NBA career, and he's a consistent player I point to within the point of people talk about load management. It's so rampant in the NBA. Yes, teams 100% strategically rest players more often than they used to. You look at some of the basketball reference page of some of the guys back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, like 82, 82, 82, 82, 82, and you're thinking, man, I don't know how like they must have been injured or feeling sore for some of these games, because nowadays it's like most guys, it's like 75 games, you missed my probably at least 7 games in there. Some guys, 79, 80, like we'll have guys who make that mark, but most of the league, they miss 10 to 20 games in a season. Jason Tatum, he's been the superstar who consistently plays upwards of 77, 78, 79 games in a season, if not the whole thing, if he, when he was younger. And Jason Tatum, he's always been a player I'd point to and go, look, if you want to talk about load management and stars in the league, you cannot talk about Jason Tatum. There's a couple other stars like that, Jokic, Giannis. They always play as long as they're not injured, of course, which is a whole different issue other than load management. Jason Tatum, he's typically a durable player. This moment right now, we're in the playoffs. We are in the playoffs. We're in the meat of the playoffs right now. We're starting, we're starting to eat the steak, but it's like, all right, it's starting to get a little juicy here in the middle. That's where the Celtics are. And this is the most important time of year. Jason Tatum, he was in the regular season. He missed one game because of that ankle injury, and then boom, popped right back up. And that was a portion of the season that didn't matter as much as the early part of the season. And the Celtics, again, I already mentioned they were in the 2 seed. They needed to stay healthy. They needed to play well going to the playoffs. They didn't need Jason Tatum out on the floor for the final 10 games, technically speaking. And from that standpoint, I see, well, Jason Tatum, he plays through that injury, and it's seemingly not a bad injury because he misses one game, then he comes right back. Well, this wrist injury, is it going to be the same? Is he going to miss more time? Like, I feel like he could be more affected by this injury because of where the injury is I would what would be the most ideal scenario for the Celtics here is if Tatum injured his left wrist. So if he injured his left wrist, you're thinking, oh well, he might not be able to go left, like dribbling with his left, that could be an issue. But hey, he still has his finishing right. He still has his ability to shoot. He still has all that mobility within his dominant hand. Right now, his dominant hand doesn't seem to have that mobility, doesn't seem to have that strength. We'll see how it looks out on the floor when he gets out there again. But I thought near the end of that game, even though he hit clutch shots, initially when he sustained the injury, remember he went to the free throw line. Jason Tatum shot 2 free throws, and both of them just looked totally off. Looked like he didn't have the strength in the wrist, didn't have the rhythm in that wrist, and he missed both of those free throws. And so moving into the future with Jason Tatum, I do see this as a little like all the like David, you said it perfectly. The red flags are popping up everywhere here. Just with the media, with how the injury report has gone down with Jason Tatum, going from X-ray to day to doubtful to likely out tonight. And the fact that this is the NBA playoffs and we've seen him before in a regular season setting, if he's not injured, he's playing. He wants to play games. He wants to play big games in particular. And this is a moment right now, game 2 at the TD Garden, big game. All right, big as as much as we want to pick on the Magic, it's like, all right, if you don't win tonight, and if you're the Celtics and you don't win tonight, it's 1-1. It's 1-1. It's a best of 5 all of a sudden. It's a best of 5 series. And so this game is important tonight for the C's. And Jason Tatum, he's not going to be playing in it. And like, he's doubtful. There's a chance he could play, but hey, I mean, they're doubt. It says doubtful, or we're going to doubt it. And from that perspective, it's I definitely I'm a little concerned with the severity of the injury right now. I'm hoping for round 2, of course, and I think everybody kind of might be looking at this. I mean, basketball fans in general too, just wanting to see stars out there. By round two, hopefully, Jason Tatum has turned the corner and he's entirely healthy and ready for that Knicks or Pistons series. And maybe this is just another iteration of what we saw in Sacramento and Phoenix and on the West Coast a month ago. Maybe that's what we're dealing with here. But I'll say, Jason Tatum, he plays a lot, and this is a big game tonight. And if he's missing this game, you know something's wrong with Jason Tatum, and that certainly to me brings up a little bit. You know, the alarm bells they're going off a little bit. I'm not hitting the panic button. All right, we're the hand was near the panic button back in January for this team. It's like we put that panic button away. We
It's
we
gone
put it
for
in
the
the
rest of
drawer. It's gone.
it's gone.
And we brought it back a little bit for Jalen Brown, maybe Porzingis. We're like, maybe, just dabble with it a little bit, but otherwise we put it away. Now, I'm just saying I'm not bringing out the panic button, but depending on how long this goes about and Jason Tatum looks like in the next game he plays, that panic button, it's like, I don't want to get it out of the drawer, but these are the type of things that can derail playoff runs, and it's unfortunate that we're already talking about it after game one. Like, it's such a bad spot. And I'll say this: people are saying this as well when it comes to this injury. It's like, oh, this is such a brutal spot. Oh, this is the worst case scenario. Obviously, it's not the most ideal scenario losing your superstar in game one of the NBA playoffs, but some optimism here. It could have happened in the finals, could have happened in the conference finals, could have happened in the semifinals. Didn't happen in any of those rounds, happened in round one. So, for the schedule in which we had in front of ourselves, I think it happened at a fairly ideal time. Yes, we would like to see it happen. Maybe game 20 where he has 60 more games to rest, but at the same time you have the situation which the Celtics are in right now. It's like you deal with what's in front of you. You deal with the present. The only thing lying in front of the Celtics right now, it's the playoffs. And considering the playoffs, it's like Jason Tatum in injuring himself. And I know people, that statement, they'll say, well, it was KCP. But regardless, Jason Tatum coming down on the floor, injuring his wrist in game one, that's a little bit more ideal than, say, Jason Tatum and even this sustaining another injury in the conference finals or NBA finals, which would be even worse for the Celtics. So there's still some silver linings in this, but at the same time, alarm bells are going off. The way this is all going about rhythmically does not sit well with me right now. I mean, game one of the NBA playoffs, we're already talking about the Celtics' most important player not playing in game two and what his availability and ability will be like moving forward into the future. That is just not a great conversation to have, but it's one we have to have because we know how big Jason Tatum is to the Celtics team. And we all know Jason Tatum, he's going to have to be out there full force, fully healthy in order for the Celtics to go ahead and win back-to-back titles.
Yeah, I gotta Andrew, do you have anything else you want to say to finish off the Tatum take?
I'll just leave with the positive perspective. It's gonna be a hell of a story. It's just gonna add to the lore. It's just gonna be Celtics win and Tatum was injured. Nobody could stop us. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah.
Brown 35-point night. We would love to see it again.
Yeah.
Now, see that would be great coming out of this injury is Tatum doesn't play. We're all questioning Brown's health, and then say Brown just goes out there tonight and just dominates. That would be
He did just that back in December.
right.
Yeah.
In that
The only
game that
thing
you
is
talked about.
he's definitely hobbled by his knee, but I still think it's like I think he's healthy enough to have a big game. It's like we saw that against Phoenix a couple weeks ago. It's like he's hobbled in that game, still came out with 31. I think I think Jalen Brown, even though he's playing the top defense in the league, a really great rebounding team, I still think he has the ability to be great against this Magic team because if we're talking about pushing the pace, one of the best players in terms of doing that for the Celtics, it's Jalen Brown. And Drew Holiday, Payton Pritchard, they do it well as well. But Jalen Brown, he's certainly a catalyst within that category. So if he's given more opportunity, Jalen Brown in this scenario, it's like that could actually be a pretty good thing for the Celtics as long as Jalen Brown is, of course, healthy.
Yeah, and I do think it is obviously cause for concern, Tatum's injury. But, we do have to realize, in that Phoenix game when Tatum was injured and the Celtics, they stepped up. We have so many guys that have ability to score the ball and make an impact that, yes, obviously Tatum's injury is concerning, but, we do have to realize we got a very, very good roster that is led by a great coach and just a great coaching staff. So I don't see I still have full faith that we can find a way to pull out a win tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to add on to Seamus's take. When he was injured back in that Sacramento game, you saw that Phoenix game. He was trying to come back and play that game. He was working out before the game. So yeah, I agree. I don't think that, obviously you changed my perspective on it. I was a little kind of on the fence because I'm like, come on, like this early, but and Joe Mazzulla's reaction saying, "Hey, get up, come on." But like you changed my perspective on it, and I'm happy now. And I agree. I think he's obviously in pain, but he's gonna play through it. I don't know if he will tonight, as he's doubtful. It will honestly shock me if he doesn't play tonight, because Tatum's mindset, he always wants to play. You hear what he says, he's always available, so that will really shock me if he doesn't play tonight. But I do want to move on to game 2 if you guys are down with it. Like I said, we might wait till next week to do a podcast. It just happens to be this falls on a Wednesday, so it works out perfectly. But injury report for the Magic, Suggs and Mo Wagner out, obviously. Other than that, you have a healthy Magic team. For the Boston Celtics, the only injury on there is Jason Tatum, and he's doubtful. But I'll start it
Like
off.
no Drew Peterson tonight. Couldn't see some. It's like every night it's G Leaguers, G Leaguers, G Leaguers, and it's usually two way, two way. That's the reason they're out. It's like
Yeah.
game 2 of the playoffs. Like, oh, who's the only person on the injury report? Oh yeah, only the Celtics' best player.
Yeah, it's like, what? Come on. Like, I'm disappointed to see Tatum there so early, but I think ultimately this is my take for game 2. I think the Boston Celtics need to come out there. With Tatum, I think you're gonna see him, like Seamus said earlier, give you kind of more so of a stat line of last game. I don't think he'll score a lot of points. I think he'll score even less points than last game. I think it's gonna be a weaker game for Tatum if you do see him play. However, I don't think he will play tonight. So I want to see the Celtics from the get-go step on that gas pedal. I want to see them do that till the very end of the game. I don't want the Magic to even have a sight of being in this game. I want a complete blowout. That would make me so happy. Because the thing is, we've seen that first quarter and that second quarter, it looked like it was gonna rattle up to be a Pacers series. I mean, the Boston Celtics come away with it, but it's gonna be close games all the way through. I don't want to see that series. I want to see a series where we could easily step on the gas pedal, get through these games, and have successful wins. And I want to see this be a series where we can kind of rest guys like Brown and Tatum and not have to worry about that, because that's what we need in a first round. A first round of playoffs is supposed to be easier, and then it progressively gets harder. However, I do not think that is going to be the case. I think the Magic are an annoying team. They're like a mosquito. I feel like the mosquito teams are the Pistons, the Pacers, and the Magic. I feel like those are the pesky mosquito teams that catch you off guard and they won't go. But that's, like, that's my perspective on it. But I think ultimately the Boston Celtics come away with a win tonight. I'm going to give a final score of, I want them to step on the gas pedal. I'm telling you, I really do. I want the Boston Celtics to score 120, and I think the Magic are going to be around the 95 margin, kind of around then. David, what are your thoughts and final score predictions?
Yeah, for me, it's just expecting that first punch from Orlando. Like, Orlando has basically leaked their game plan the last couple of days of at least how they're going to start the game, or they're going to play super fast. So, just going to be all about either, if we play fast, making sure that we're ready for Orlando to play fast, at least to start, just making sure our guys get back in transition. But, I mean, as I said at the start, I don't have any problems with how we played offensively. Also, we match the intensity defensively. It's just, how do we deal with those punches and then making sure that we rebound as well. We, as it was talked about earlier, we, had some opportunities where we were allowing the Magic to extend possessions offensively, and we could have done a better job boxing out as well. But I mean, yeah, those are just the little things I'm looking out for. I think this game's going to be a lot closer. I could see this game coming down to like those final 5 minutes. But I'm predicting the Celtics to win. I do think right away we're going to see the Magic come out with a huge punch. I would not be surprised if the Celtics have to call an early timeout and they fall behind by 10 in the first quarter, because that's just generally how a lot of these playoff series go. The team, when you're facing a young, scrappy team like the Magic, they're going to have a lot to play for. They're going to have a lot to prove, obviously. They don't want to fall behind 0-2. They want to send a message. I think they're just going to come out with a lot more energy than us. I mean, we've seen this before with the Celtics. There was, I think, game 4 last year against Cleveland. We called like a timeout 2 minutes in because they started up like 10-0 like that or something like that. So for me, it's just, again, how did the Celtics respond to the punches? You know they're going to be coming, but I expect the Magic to start off hot. I think that we'll be able to recover, though. And I'm going to say the Celtics are going to win this one 105-99.
Oh wow, you think it's gonna be super close?
I think
Yeah,
it's going to be close. I mean, Tatum not playing is going to be huge. Obviously, you're, sacrificing at least 20, 25 points. So I think this is just going to be a game where the Magic are hanging around the whole time, but the Celtics, using their championship experience, are just going to be able to close it out.
yeah.
Can I say this too? In game 1, the Celtics scored 103, right? 103 points. Derek White had 30. It's like, think without Derek White, the team basically scores 73 points. That is, it's like that's with Jason Tatum. That's with Jaylen Brown playing next to Jason. Porzingis is, the lineup was fully healthy in game 1. Derek White scores 30. Obviously, Payton Pritchard scores 19, but without Derek White's 30, this team scores 73. And the reason Derek White was able to put up 30 is because Jason Tatum was out there on the floor and drawing so much attention away from other guys. Now the Magic, they're going to be able to match up against, match up differently, I should say, against the rest of the Celtics tonight. And we already saw the results of that in game 1. Only 73 points from guys who were not named Derek White. Just saying. But Andrew, I believe you're next, so go ahead. On game 2.
Yeah. What Seamus already talked about is the margin of error. Now that Tatum's injured, it's smaller. So we have to make sure that we're playing, our brand of basketball, dictating the pace from the jump, because we don't have a lot of room for error playing into their brand of basketball, because a couple plays that go their way, a couple runs for the Magic can completely derail us and dictate the game and bring the game into the fourth quarter, make it close, and put the pressure on the Celtics. But I also think we need to make sure that we control offensive glass. We need to make sure we're diving on all the loose balls. We need to make sure defensively we're finishing out possessions. I think that's where it comes down to. It's not going to be the points. It's really going to come down to how we handle the intangibles that you don't really see necessarily on the paper.
Yeah, intangibles is a great word, because that's what the Celtics need in order to me, run away in these ball games. If the Celtics are winning the hustle stats in these ball games, if they're winning the rebounding battle, if they're winning the turnover battle, if they're winning the battle of pace, they're gonna blow ahead in this series, regardless of if Jason Tatum's on the floor or not. Now, if the Magic keep things close, they keep things even in those categories, and they even win those categories, that's when we're gonna see some trouble arise for the Celtics. That's why we saw the Celtics face some trouble there in game 1. The Magic were tilting the game towards themselves. Every single thing in which they needed to win, they were winning, particularly the offensive rebounds, the second chance points, all of those little aspects the Magic need to win, because let's face it, the Magic, they're 30th in 3-point percentage. They don't have creators. They don't have shooters out on the floor. They simply don't have offense. The Magic, that's the one thing about coming into the series. Like, it was so hard to decipher. It's like, do we want to play Orlando or Atlanta? Atlanta was clearly more discombobulated from a morality standpoint. It seemed like they wanted the season to be over. And we were like, we want to face Atlanta. But Orlando, we were looking at too, going, can these guys even score over 100 points in a game this series? Like, can the Celtics just score 110 every night and beat the Magic and play well defensively to the point where they're shutting down the Magic from even getting to the 100-point mark? that was the conversation coming into the series, but between Atlanta and Orlando. It's like Atlanta was clearly the worst team, but Orlando had a glaring flaw in which you looked at and went, this seems like something the Celtics should be able to overcome, even with the Magic's level of defense and their level of rebounding. All of what the Magic do well, it's like, regardless of what they do well, they can't score points. The Magic cannot score points. And so going into game two, the Celtics, if they win the hustle stats, that's going to be big for them, period, in any game, with or without Jason Tatum, but particularly without JT. They're going to have to win that category in order to really control the game. And I think there's been a lot of conversation about pace of play recently, but the Magic, to me, I don't know how the Magic can play quick and keep up with the Celtics because I just mentioned their offense is that putrid. It's that horrible. Yes, they want to be probably a little more aggressive on that end of the floor, get a couple more opportunities in transition, get to the free throw line. That's something actually, all the talk we've had on game one. This is not something that's come up, but the Magic love to get to the free throw line. They shoot the second most free throws, or I believe either free throw rate or free throw attempts. I believe I was looking at free throw rate, which is a better stat to look at than just raw attempts in a game. But rate wise, the Orlando Magic are right behind the Los Angeles Lakers on the season. We know the Lakers, they're always, with LeBron, they're going to take the top spot in most years. But the Magic, they're number two. And the reason they're number two is they're physical, they're aggressive, going downhill. Obviously, if you're not a 3-point shooting team, you can't. You're not making your threes. You're not taking threes. Like, you're going to the basket a lot more, getting fouled a lot more. But those extra points at the free throw line, they matter for the Magic. You have to get any points where you can get them if you're the Magic. And in game one, the Celtics only sent the Magic to the free throw line 11 times. That's not too many times for a game in which is a playoff, intense atmosphere, and it's a physical, aggressive game. That is something the Celtics will have to prevent yet again in game two, moving forward, is they just could not let the Magic get all those little points within the margins, including sending the Magic to the free throw line. So moving ahead, the Celtics, what they're going to have to do in game two is, first of all, I think game two obviously is going to be more challenging than game one, even though game one was challenging in itself because you're coming into a series where, well, the Magic, they played last week against the Hawks, and maybe they have a little bit of a rhythm from that game. They still have rest. The Celtics have a ton of rest. The Magic are going to throw out a game plan in which the Celtics probably haven't seen this season, and they're going to have to weather the storm. That's what they did in game one, and they eventually overcame that in the third quarter. They ran ahead. But this game, I've kind of already alluded to it and touched on it, but this is going to be a game in which Derek White, Payton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis even, they're going to see way more pressure on themselves, Drew Holiday included. They're going to see way more pressure on themselves within this game because Jason Tatum, the gravity of Jason Tatum, we basketball fans, they often forget about gravity and superstars. Just the gravity of superstars alone can make them so effective on the floor. We've seen that with Curry time and time again over the years, where teams are super afraid of leaving Steph Curry open for three, and they're chasing him around everywhere. And off of screens, it's like, oh no, we have to stay home on Curry. We have to stay home. We can't switch right here. Stay home on Curry. And then the Warriors, they utilize that and manipulate that action to get wide open cutters flowing down towards the basket. And we've seen that year after year with the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. And it happens with other superstars too. These superstars, the defense, there's so much emphasis put on the stars and so much pressure put on the stars that you forget about guys like Derek White. You forget about guys like Payton Pritchard. Well, tonight, that gravity is gone. That gravity is completely gone from the Celtics rotation. Jason Tatum, the Magic don't have to worry about him. And now everything that was being sent towards Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown's running the offense like, oh, we're sending doubles at Jaylen Brown. We're sending pressure at Jaylen Brown, who they know too. He's hobbled. We've been talking about this. He's hobbled. Now, he seemed a little bit better than he was last week, and he played 30 minutes in game one, which was awesome to see. But we know Jaylen Brown is hobbled. And if the Magic can throw more pieces and more pressure at Jaylen Brown, well, guess what? Now Jaylen Brown's job is harder. And that just goes along with the entire offense. It's a trickle down effect. Everybody's job becomes harder on the Celtics offense and just within the team in general. So tonight, I think the Celtics, they're going to have to certainly win those hustle stats. They're going to have to win in transition. I think, for as much as the Magic want to play with pace, I really don't think they actually do, because the only game they can win in this series is they're going to be games like we saw Orlando win in the regular season against the Celtics. Now that second game is a total throwaway. Again, top 6 out. You can just toss that one out the window. But that game too, it's like 96-76. Magic slowed the pace down of that game. It went by super quick, but it was a slow, grinded out game for the Magic. They only scored 96. Earlier in the season, I believe that final was 108-104. And it felt like down the stretch, there were some free throw opportunities and back and forth in that final minute, but it was in the 90s in that final stretch of the game, the crunch time of the game. And from that perspective, the Magic, it's like that's how they have to win games. Like they either have to rely on crazy variance within their shots, like, oh, gee, we talked to Cortez yesterday. He was saying, yeah, if they hit 15, 16 threes, that's when they could potentially pull out a game. It's like, but they don't do that often. The Magic don't do that too often. Now, if the Magic hit a bunch of shots from and the variance tilts towards the Magic, that's going to be one thing in which the Magic can lean on to potentially win a game. But considering that's few and far between for the Magic are going to have to slow the pace down, turn into a grinded game. They're going to have to win all the hustle stats. And I believe you have to play almost perfectly if you're the Magic. You have to slow the game down, rebound well, turn the ball over, kind of get out in transition. Paulo Banchero, I think, has to have a phenomenal night in the half court. You have to have a lot of things going right for the Magic. But I'll say this, going into game 2 without Jason Tatum, the Magic, there's more of a possibility those things go right for the Magic in game 2, opposed to what we saw in game 1. Because I thought what we saw in game 1 is some of that gravity Jason Tatum has. It truly played an effect to guys like Jason Tatum, or sorry, not Jason Tatum, Derek White and Payton Pritchard. Obviously 30 points, 19 points out there. And they were able to get their own because the defenses, it's particularly Derek White. Like Payton Pritchard, he gets his off the dribble, but Derek White's like a lot of corner threes, a lot of wing threes, a lot of transition opportunities for Derek White on the perimeter. And we know he has that floater package and everything, but I believe what his shot selection in game 1, it was, so we had 18 shots in total. 12 of them were from 3, 6 were from 2. He likes to take that 3 ball, and the reason he took 12 threes in game 1 because they were open. Derek White had a lot of open threes in game 1, and I just wonder in game 2, like, are those open threes going to be there yet again for D White and the Celtics offense? Regardless, this is going to be a tougher game for the C's to navigate and strategize for without Jason Tatum. But that doesn't mean they can't win the ball game. I mean, Jaylen Brown, he's going to be somebody that, to me, this could be hopefully Jaylen Brown's breakout game tonight, where we go, okay, he looks healthy. Now, in game 1, we were talking about, okay, yeah, he looks a little bit better than he did in New York, and last time we saw him a week and a half ago. But, it was 2 weeks ago, 13 days. So Jaylen Brown, 13 days off between that time period. It's kind of a significant period of time there. But 13 days off, it's like, yeah, he looked a little bit better, but he didn't look like NBA Finals Jaylen Brown, like 2024 Finals Jaylen Brown. That was just a different animal. We didn't see that in game 1. We see that in game 2, and he looks spry, he looks healthy, he's commanding the offense, and he pushes the pace the way we know he can do. This could be a breakout game for Jaylen Brown, and it could turn into a positive scenario for the Celtics, where it's like, oh, look at Brown's injury, not that bad. Tatum's injury, not that bad. Say he comes back next game, it's like, oh, and Brown dominated a game, got his feet wet, got his sea legs back under him in game 2, dominated the Magic, pushed the pace, was a huge factor in that game. That's a scenario we could be looking at, and that's the more optimistic view of it. But regardless, the Celtics, they're going to have a tough road in order to get to that point. But it shouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities that they can achieve a win tonight and do it in a fashion in which is respectable, right? Respectable. If I were to give a final score prediction on this game, I mean, I'm keeping it within how I see the entire series. It's like this is probably a one. See, like I'm like, am I going too high with the score?
I went really
Without
high.
Jason Tatum, I was gonna go into the 110s, but I'm like, is it gonna be in the 110s? Like,
I
kind of
went
feeling like 108, like 100, like somewhere in there, like 112, 102, something like that tonight. I feel like it's 6, 8, 10 points. David, you're leaning more on the side of like 6 points. Like lower side, I think I'd be leaning on like the higher side of that. Like the average is kind of like 7, 8. I'd be going like 9, 10 more so, leaning that way rather than say 7 or 6 or 5 for the Celtics. But I do see that. I see that kind of that being the scenario for the C's, regardless of if Jason Tatum's in the lineup or not tonight. I see the Celtics coming out with a win. It's just they have to do it within the margins more so than they did in game one, especially in that first half. And Jaylen Brown, he has to come out and he has to play a little bit better than he has been lately. And I'm hoping that his knee at this point in time has the ability in order to do that because it's going to be his show tonight. Porzingis is going to have to show up again. Hey, he didn't show up in game one. It was 1 of 8 from the floor, 5 points. Porzingis a horrible showing, and you could say the Magic defense stifled a lot of that. But regardless, you're going to have to see a good game out of Jaylen Brown and the Celtics secondary guys, their tertiary guys in this game. I think it's possible for the Celtics, but don't get me wrong, it's going to be a different task than what we saw in game one.
I went on the higher side because I think I don't know. I want them to come with a statement win tonight. I want them to bounce back from that and respond from that Tatum injury in a big way. And you saw it against the Phoenix Suns. I mean, the Phoenix Suns are terrible, but after that Tatum injury, the team bounced back, and I want to see kind of a game similar to that. But to add on to your point, Seamus, too, I want the Celtics to own the boards offensively and defensively. That's a thing I saw in the first that they weren't doing last game, and a thing I want them to do tonight. But that brings us to our point number 11. Not Kyrie Irving. Nope. It's Payton Pritchard. 6th man of the year. Feeling great. I think it's undeniable that he was going to win it all year. I think everyone kind of knew it from the get-go. But it's official now. You see the graphic up here. But this will wrap it up, our last talk. Thoughts on Payton Pritchard winning 6th man of the year? We'll start off with you, David.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. I think we all kind of saw this coming from November of last year. So, like, it was honestly just this rest of the season, just all right, let's just get to this moment. I mean, we saw what type of tear Payne Pritchard was on from the start. And it's just, all this has already been said in the Celtics community, but it's just a testament to the development of Payton Pritchard and what a ride he's been on here in Boston. We draft him at the end of the first round in 2020, has a decent sized role in his rookie season, given to the fact that the Celtics didn't have too much depth with that team as is. A little bit of a flash in the pan there, has his moments in his rookie season. Then, Brad Stevens takes over as GM. We, still don't have an incredible team in that second season, but we add some more depth. And obviously, Payton Pritchard still had a decent sized bench role. And obviously, he was, I think, either him or Neesmith, who was that one guy who ended up coming off the bench in that final series against the Warriors when that series got deeper and deeper. And, he had his moments those first couple seasons off the bench, like that playoff run too. I remember he hit some huge threes in that Bucks game 7, becoming a fan favorite. And really, for me, it wasn't until that third season where I started to appreciate this guy even more. And that's ironic to say because that third season with Payton Pritchard was a season where he was buried in the bench because we had Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White in front of him. But I just felt like all the minutes Pritchard gave us that season were great. I used to think this guy was just a guy who was just an offensive juggernaut and didn't really do too much defensively. But that season, is when I truly came to see what Payton Pritchard is today. A guy that can hit 3-point shots, do just enough playmaking, and also hustle. He can drive downhill and get buckets in the paint. He'll out rebound you, which is crazy for a 6'2", 6'3" guard be out rebounding, the big men in the NBA these days. But I remember a sequence he had where he out rebounded DeAndre Jordan, who's almost 7 feet. So you just gotta love what you see out of Pritchard. And his professionalism that season where he was unhappy about his situation, but he understood why the Celtics were doing what they were doing from a roster construction standpoint. He respectfully requested a trade. And then I mean, you want to talk about great underrated decisions here, but the decision to stick with a Pritchard over a Smart and a Brogdon, obviously, in hindsight now, was the right decision because we won the championship last year. And he was rewarded with getting a much more important role in the championship season last year when we cleaned out the backcourt a little bit. And I mean, obviously, he came alive and was known well for his buzzer beaters last season. And then this season, he's just starting to put it all together, just getting more minutes off the bench, giving us great minutes when he's on the court, hitting the 3-point shot, playing exceptional defense. I mean, I think another underrated part of Pritchard's development is his time with Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday being part of the team because him and Drew, it's been documented, they've worked together, and Pritchard has picked up a thing or two about how to play defense on the perimeter. And he's just another guy like we talked about with Tatum, where you can tell he just loves basketball, and like every chance he gets, he just wants to be on the court playing basketball. It was a shock this year when we would see Pritchard on the injury report and missing a couple games he did, where it's like he's just another guy, like I said, like Tatum, where it's shocking when he's injured or physically unable to play because we're always just so used to him being able to play. But yeah, I mean, just he had an amazing season this year. He's another guy that teams have to game plan for. Like that's the ultimate sign of respect is when that game earlier in the year where we played the Bucks and Doc Rivers said before the game he had Payton Pritchard's name in big bold lettering. So to have that for a guy off the bench is incredible. And it's cool too. A fun little fact that we all know is that 2 of the last 3 6-man of the year winners were Celtics, which I think is funny. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to what's next for Pritchard. But this has just been an amazing season for him. And yeah, what a decision it was to keep him. And I'm happy that he's happy here now. And I mean, all of us Boston Celtics fans appreciate him.
Yeah, Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it just is a testament to his work ethic and his love of the game. I mean, he's just a student. You see his workouts that he does in the off season, playing against like all those players and just offensively going at it. It just shows that he wants it. So this is just proof in the pudding that his work ethic paid off. I think that Tatum has just been such an important piece to the Celtics from so many aspects. Obviously, his ability to score, his ability to make it impact on the offensive end. But we lost like a guy like Smart who would come in, maybe hit a big three and swing that momentum. And I feel like Pritchard has given us that to the Celtics, where if he starts firing, if he starts hitting threes, he just makes the crowd roar. He makes the crowd get engaged and really gives us that swing of momentum that we can utilize and build off of for the rest of the game. So I just think he has been such a huge impact for the Celtics. He's an inspiration to me. He's a shorter guy, I look up. I appreciate his game and what he can do, and it just shows it honestly shows all these, shorter guards that are growing up that are playing basketball what you're capable of and what you can do if you work hard and stay the course. So, congrats to Payton Pritchard, and like David said, I'm excited to see what else he can bring to Tatum and what he can build upon because I think the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, look, Peyton Pritchard, you mentioned small guards. And Pritchard, looking at his story in Boston, it's actually inspirational because, Dave, you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, where the professionalism of Peyton Pritchard in respectfully requesting a trade, not being given that the outcome of that request. Obviously, the Celtics kept Peyton Pritchard, and he had to earn his way into the rotation. Looking at Peyton Pritchard's career in Boston, I mean, it's been an ebb and flow. It's of ups and downs. His rookie season, when Peyton Pritchard came into the ball game, his first preseason game was played against the 76ers back in December of 2020. The first play of the game, you could tell Peyton Pritchard was special. Kind of gave that Brandon Williams vibe. Brandon Williams for the Dallas Mavericks right now, he gave off that Peyton Pritchard vibe where just the first time you see him, you go, whoa, that's a little different. Like that's something different. That's not a, young inexperienced player. That's somebody who's ready to come out here and play. Payton Pritchard, his first play on the floor, got the ball, dribble drive, hard to the rim, and didn't get to the rim, but pulled up for a midi, swished it, and it just felt like a moment where you're like, wait, that was his first play in the NBA? It feels like he's played 500 NBA games. I mean, the way he literally came in, took the ball, super aggressive early on, and just boom, hit a shot immediately over the Sixers defense. That was back all the way in 2020. And we all know in 20 and 21, that season, 500 year for the Celtics, totally a throwaway season. But Payton Pritchard was the silver lining that year. It was like, oh, who do we have in Payton Pritchard right now? Payton Pritchard, the 26th overall pick in the draft, our rookie, he has something here. He definitely has something. But in year two, he's kind of relegated within that Ime Udoka rotation. He's in and out at the beginning of the season, doesn't really have a role. We're talking about trading him. We don't really know what to do. What's the future with Pritchard? Then he eventually finds a role on that team later on in time as that spark plug scorer. The best utilization of Pritchard was at the beginning of the fourth quarter. You had Tatum, Brown, they would sit out, and the Celtics, they'd bring in Payton Pritchard and go, look, here are the keys to the offense for about 3 minutes here. Go do your thing. And that's what Ime Udoka would do with Payton Pritchard in 21-22. And then in 22-23, that season, Brogdon comes into the building, and all of a sudden, Pritchard, he's laced behind all these great guards within the Celtics rotation: Derek White, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. Pritchard, he's fourth within that rotation. You're not going to play as much as a fourth guard, especially being as small as Payton Pritchard was, relegated in that rotation, and then he requests a trade. But the next season, Payton Pritchard, no Brogdon, no Smart. Pritchard steps up into a bigger role, into that third guard role, and he starts taking off from there. Now, last season, he didn't have as great of a season as this year, but you could see that ramp up. Payton Pritchard was clearly more involved in the team last year and clearly more impactful and important to last year's team opposed to any of the teams in the past. And now all of a sudden this year, the Celtics, thankfully, last two seasons, the Celtics keep Payton Pritchard, comes into this year and starts doing things in which puts him into the conversation sometimes on this program of all-star. Now, is he an all-star? In my opinion, no. Payton Pritchard is not an all-star, but he's the MVP of the bench. Out of all the bench players in the NBA, cut out all the starters in the NBA and just take the bench players. Payton Pritchard literally won the MVP award for all of the bench players in the NBA this season. And that is mighty impressive because what we saw out of Pritchard last year, it's like we weren't suspecting Payton Pritchard as the player, as the archetype of player he is, right? Small guard, and he's coming into the league. You saw typical, like David, you already kind of touched on it. Like, typical small guard. Think he's just going to be a good scorer. Like we've seen this a million times in the past, where a small guard comes in, they can light it up from three, they can get to the basket, and they can score the ball, but defensively they're nothing. Well, this season, Payton Pritchard got after it on both ends of the floor, and offensively, I would say that's obviously where everybody looks at Payton Pritchard and go, oh, he does most of his work there. But defensively, he brought it to the floor, and that's why he was able to stay on the floor for the majority of the season. If Payton Pritchard wasn't defending his ass off out there, he simply wouldn't be playing with the Boston Celtics. That's just a fact. But we all know offensively that's where Payton Pritchard made his bread and butter this season, and he was just phenomenal. I mean, Payton Pritchard was absolutely phenomenal on the offensive end of the floor this season. And just looking at Payton Pritchard's numbers this year, from like winning this award, obviously is great for Pritchard and his accolades. But just seeing how he got here, I mean, 14.3 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, and those are all career highs from last year. And then 3-point percentage, 40% this year. The first two seasons of his career, he was up at 41.1, 41.2%. Then he dropped down 36, 38%, still a respectable 3-point percentage there the last two seasons. However, this year pops back up to 40%. And I was touching on this with Rob a couple of shows ago. I don't even remember which show it was on, but look at this. Okay, I'm just going to point this aspect out of Payton Pritchard here. So field goal attempts, right? Actually, let's go to 2-point attempts first. 2-point attempts. Pritchard shot 3.1 2-point attempts last season. Pritchard came into this season. He is shooting 3 this season. So 3.1 last year, 3 this year per game. Just raw stats right there. same amount of twos, basically 3.1, 3. He's taking a little less, but it's 0.1. It's like not that much, right? And from a shooting perspective on twos, he's shooting 5% better. Actually, 4.9%, basically 5% better from two. And he's taking a little less, but basically the same. From 3-point land, okay, this is where the insanity of this stat comes in. Last year, Payton Pritchard took 4.7 threes per game, all right, and shot the three ball at a 38.5% clip. This season, Payton Pritchard is taking 7.8 threes per game. 7.8. That's nearly 3 more threes per game. It's actually 3.1 more threes per game. And he's shooting 40.7%. So Payton Pritchard, on average this season, took 3 more threes per game. Okay? Didn't even mess with the twos. He wasn't taking more layups, more floaters, more runners. It wasn't messing with his twos. Took 3 more threes within the offense. And his percentage went up by 2 percentage points. That's impressive in the NBA. That is truly impressive because typically we see the other result happen with players who increase their volume of threes, specifically talking on the 3-point ball. Players who increase their volume, you always see their percentages go down. I mean, it's just how the variance works. If you're taking more opportunities or taking more shots, you're potentially going to have a lower percentage than, say, take 3 shots versus 7 shots. You have more ability to miss within that 7. And so just looking at the math of that, Payton Pritchard, from particularly 3-point land, the efficiency is off the charts. I mean, he took 3 more threes per game and shot it at a percentage 2 percentage points higher than last season. I mean, that is a significant improvement for a player coming off the bench and playing the role in which Payton Pritchard has with the Celtics, because he's not a paid player on the Celtics. And look, the top 5 is paid. Al Horford, he's been paid in the past $10 million. Sam Hauser, you could say Sam Hauser and Al Horford off the bench. They're the 2 paid guys. They're not max guys, but they've been paid. Sam Hauser and Al Horford, the rightful dues. Payton Pritchard is not a paid player. I mean, he's, yes, 6-7 million a year, but that's extremely low for the value in which he's giving the Celtics right now, which is a bench player who literally took 3 more 3-point attempts this year, 3 more attempts, period, and shot it at a higher percentage. Like, that is a significant improvement for a team paying so much money to the top half of the roster and needing some bench help, and now getting it from a guy who contractually such a bargain deal for the Celtics, but just the improvement within some of the shooting numbers in his game as a whole has been spectacular to see with Payton Pritchard. I'll point this out too. Payton Pritchard, within his development, uh, part of the story for P is, look at how many guards he beat out within the Celtics organization. Or, on one hand, you could say, yes, he beat out all these guards, and that's part of the story. But all these guards also helped Payton Pritchard to ascend to where he is today. I mean, look at some of these names. Kemba Walker. He played with Kemba Walker. Malcolm Brogdon. Marcus Smart. Dennis Schroeder. We forget he played half a season with Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, I look at him right now playing with the Pistons. I go, remember when he was with Al Horford and the Hawks 10 years ago? I mean, that was a long time ago. He's a legit veteran in this league. Jeff Teague played with him half a season. Another Hawks guard, ironically, played with Al Horford. But Josh Richardson played with him as well. I know people will hear that name, but Josh Richardson Richardson had some game in him. I will say he was a veteran when Derek White, or I shouldn't say Derek White, Payton Pritchard was a rookie. So I should second year guy, I would say they played together within Payton Pritchard's second year. But Payton Pritchard, the whole point, young guy, veteran, Jay Rich. Derek White and Drew Holiday today. Those are 2 of the best defensive guards in NBA history, the best defensive backcourt in NBA history. David, you touched on it. Like, Payton Pritchard has 100% picked up something from Drew Holiday, with Drew Holiday being on the roster. Not only Drew Holiday, but all these other guards: Kemba Walker, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Jeff Teague, Josh Richardson, Derek White, Drew Holiday. All of those guards, Payton Pritchard didn't beat out every single one of them. Obviously, White and Drew, they're still ahead of him in the rotation, but regardless, like, beat out a lot of these guards for that, second or third guard role, depending on the night. And also, he probably took a lot of things from these guards, Payton Pritchard did, over time. And I look at some of the history that's involved in basketball all the time. You go back to the 70s, the 80s, even the 60s. Go back all the way in history there. Great players always have great mentors.
They do.
Every single great player has a great mentor. And Peyton Pritchard, looking at his time in Boston, tons and tons of great mentors with the C's. And what does it lead into? It leads into greatness in which Peyton Pritchard is achieving today. Peyton Pritchard would not be able to win this Sixth Man of the Year award without the help of these guards and his situation within the NBA over time. Just think, if Peyton Pritchard was playing for the Charlotte Hornets this entire time, do you think he would have as much skill as he has today, as much knack for the ball and the game as a whole as he does today? Not if you're not in a winning culture, if you're not in a culture in which you have good, savvy veterans around you, you're not going to learn as much as players who do. And Peyton Pritchard, he got lucky within his NBA career, fell into the right situation, fell into a situation where there were a lot of great mentors around himself. And let's face this too, all these guards, right? They're on the roster. The Celtics line of history. I mean, look at all the guards in Celtics history that potentially, in the building, in and out over time, and willing to give advice. Doesn't even have to be guards; it's just general great players in Celtics history coming in and out of the building, giving great speeches, giving great conversations to some of these players. And Peyton Pritchard has benefited from that over time to the point where now he is a Celtic great himself. Is he going to be in the Raptors one day? We don't know. We don't know how many championships he's going to come out with. We don't know what his future role. It's only season 5 for Pritchard. We don't know what his season role in time will look like. But winning the Sixth Man of the Year, I believe we had a post on it on Instagram yesterday, maybe even X. It's only been a couple of Sixth Man of the Year award winners in Celtics history, and to do that, you see is certainly quite the achievement for Peyton Pritchard, who just a couple of years ago, just a couple of seasons, requested a trade from the Celtics, and even before that, looked like a player that didn't have any value on the trade market. We didn't really know where to go with Peyton Pritchard. We were developing him. Is he going to turn in anything? Is he going to be paid? We asked Cortez that question about the Magic yesterday about who's the player that you're in between with, like, what are you going to do with this player? Is he playing? Is he not? Are we trading him? What are we doing? That was Peyton Pritchard on the Celtics at one point in time. And I would say easily, this is the best case scenario for Peyton Pritchard within his NBA career. And because of the size and where he comes from, who he is. And this is the best case scenario for what the Celtics could have seen from Peyton Pritchard in his NBA career, because this could have gone completely sideways. He could have been, I don't want to pick on him, Griffin, but JD Davison. It's like he could have been a JD Davison. He could have been down in the G League for a couple of years. JD Davison, I almost added him into the name of guards, great guards, the Celtics, next to Peyton Pritchard. But I feel like Peyton Pritchard might be mentoring JD more than JD's mentoring Pritchard. But regardless, he could have been like a JD Davison where he spends a ton of time in the G League and he doesn't see any playing time, and maybe later down the line, it's like we just let him go, or we trade him like in a package where, Drew. I'm surprised looking at the Blazers or even the Grizzlies or the Wizards over time. How did none of them ask for Peyton Pritchard? It feels like in those Drew Holiday, the Kristaps Porzingis trades, like Peyton Pritchard, I feel like on the other end, it's like, just throw in Peyton Pritchard. That never happened. The Celtics were able to hold on to him over time, that low salary. Now all of a sudden, I mean, this is seriously the best case scenario for the Celtics and Peyton Pritchard. The only thing that would make it better for Pritchard is if he were on a $30 million contract. And unfortunately, if he were, this situation just wouldn't be working out as is. So as we see, Sixth Man of the Year for Peyton Pritchard, much deserved. We talked about him at nauseum this season, and we all knew this award was coming. He's been minus 1,000 essentially since November, December to win Sixth Man of the Year. Malik Beasley made a run at it, but I mean, when you're a guy like Peyton Pritchard putting up what he has off the bench for a 61 win ball club and really helping this squad, I think that's what's been undersold a little bit within this the Peyton Pritchard conversation. Is some people are saying, well, Malik Beasley, it's like Peyton Pritchard wasn't as important to the Celtics as Malik Beasley was to the Pistons. But it's like, I kind of disagree. I think, yes, Malik Beasley certainly gave the Pistons a lot this season, but looking at what Peyton Pritchard did, I mean, he basically propelled the Celtics to 60 wins in November and December. We didn't know later on in time that that would be the result, but at that time period, we were the only players giving effort and energy out there consistently on an every night basis. We were consistently talking about Peyton Pritchard here every single night in December and January. He was always the bright spot. He was always the player. It's like, oh, we didn't play great this game, but hey, look, Pritchard, 20.9. He gave his intensity, gave his effort. You don't have to question Payton Pritchard on whether or not he wants to play in a ball game. Payton Pritchard, his intensity, his physicality, his ability to shoot the ball, his confidence, his ability to rebound, his confidence in rebounding the ball too against these giants in the NBA being basically our size on this podcast here, on this broadcast. Let's call it what it is. It's a broadcast. But Payton Pritchard, everything that comes along with Payton Pritchard's game, he was super important for the Celtics this season. And I just think that's a little understated in all this when people talk about Malik Beasley or Payton Pritchard. It's like, no, Payton Pritchard for 2 months there was easily the hardest playing Celtics player and a player in which kept the Celtics afloat on some nights in which the Celtics we saw, they didn't give their full intensity, didn't give their full effort within games. But guess who did? It was Payton Pritchard, and I'm sticking with it. He propelled the Celtics over 60 wins this season. And I think without Payton Pritchard, look at that bench. Like what are we getting off the bench? Al Horford, Sam Hauser, Shireman. I know obviously Shireman, very young. Torrey Craig's like without Payton Pritchard, that bench is just gone. It's a nothing bench essentially. You have Hauser and Horford, and you're playing your starters heavy minutes in the playoffs. Now Payton Pritchard being on this roster in the spot in which he's in, he gives this roster a huge boost because of that depth, that ability for Joe Mazzulla to go even deeper within the lineup and create more rotations out of what Payton Pritchard can bring you. I mean, the minutes eaters, we talk about innings eaters in baseball, but Payton Pritchard, he's kind of a minutes eater out on the basketball floor. He can come out there, he plays well, you can fit him into many different rotations, he can handle the ball, he can play off ball. And yes, he's going to be hunted defensively sometimes, but he's not going to give up on that end of the floor because Payton Pritchard, he's very intense, very physical. And he's a very stout player for his size, and he's never going to give up on that end of the floor like we saw all season long. And this Sixth Man of the Year award at the end of the year is so deserving for Payton Pritchard because the mentality in which he has, the confidence in which he has out on the basketball floor, it's unmatched by a lot of people in the league. And one day I hope Payton Pritchard gets that check, an even bigger check than what he's making right now. But for now, I think that the Sixth Man of the Year award, that'll do him some good for that check later on in time, and maybe another championship ring later on down the line.
Yeah, I agree. Really quick, you talk about how much of an important factor he was for the Celtics this season. I want to jump into Celtics Nation Rise MVP for regular season. We didn't really talk about it much the last podcast, but Tatum had 25, Porzingis with 8, and then look who was in third place. Payton Pritchard with 7. Yeah, it wasn't Jaylen Brown. It wasn't Derek White. It wasn't anyone else. It was no other than Payton Pritchard in that third place. And I think that's incredible. He was, according to Celtics Nation Rise with wins, he was your third best player on the team. He won the third most MVPs. So he deserves Sixth Man of the Year. And I want to say from my perspective, when I started liking Pritchard, I went to one of his, I think it was his rookie year. I don't remember. But we were playing the Trailblazers, and I went to a game, and he was shooting shots from half court like he was Curry. And some guy in the crowd yells, "You're not Curry, stop shooting that." And like he was getting all mad, heckling Pritchard. And I was like, I'm not a fan of him either. Like, why is he shooting shots out here when he literally barely has a role in here? But Seamus, you already mentioned it too. He had such great mentors. And I think the Pritchard rise really started last year when he started getting noticed, and he got noticed for those notable half court shots. Because it looked like he had a magnet to the basket whenever he shot a half court shot. It looked like he couldn't miss. Like there was a magnet to the ball, to the rim. And that's what it essentially seemed like. And that's when I started growing with Pritchard. You call me a bandwagon Pritchard fan then for sure, because I became a fan of him then. But it's the fact that I think it's so impressive that can translate to his game. And you see his incredible ball handling drills. You see those how much he works, how much effort he puts into. He's incredible. That 91 points a long time ago. He's an incredible player. And just for him to get his flowers and respect like this is just incredible. And it's well deserved. And I became a big Pritchard fan starting last year, and I loved it. And I got 2 Pritchard jerseys this year. Like I'm such a big Pritchard fan. Let's pull it up again. 6th man of the year. Yeah, that's right. I think we all knew it was going to happen. You heard it on all the broadcasts. But I'm proud of him. I think that's what we're gonna wrap it up with, though. So
I'm gonna add one more thing. Payton
Yeah.
Pritchard. We talked about when he came into the team. Can he replace Marcus Smart? Is he the Marcus Smart replacement in time? Turned out he was. Payton Pritchard 100% was the Marcus Smart replacement. Now you could say, yeah, Drew, Derek White, sure, they play a role too, but Payton Pritchard, he did replace Marcus Smart within the rotation, and even furthermore off that point, I'm surprised. Let's just throw this dynamic out there. The Celtics, David, you mentioned this kind of interesting. Let's see, the last 3 seasons, right? The last 3 6 man of the year. The Celtics have 2 of them. So Brogdon, Pritchard, and then Naz Reid right there in the middle last year. What's insane is the Celtics 2 6 men of the year, right, in this era, and neither of them are Marcus Smart. Like the way Marcus Smart came into his career and played that 6-man role with the Celtics, it's very surprising that we look at now in 2025 the Celtics as a franchise to have 2 players who have been 6-man of the year, and neither of them are Marcus Smart. But one of them, of course, Payton Pritchard, being a guy who kind of replaced Marcus Smart in time. Maybe not so much in every aspect of the game for the Celtics, and there's obviously nuances to different teams and rotations. But we talked about when Payton Pritchard was drafted, can he replace some of the guard roster, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, those 2 primarily. Those were the 2 starting guards for the Celtics in 2021. Well, in time, we saw Payton Pritchard, 6th man of the year. We're talking about him winning 6th man of the year right now. It's like the progression between that point and now, it's certainly been something to witness from Payton Pritchard, because I didn't see this within his career. I think the only person who foresaw this was Mr. Nick Franco. Franco literally on our either first or second post game of the season when the Celtics were out in Abu Dhabi facing the Denver Nuggets. Franco randomly comes out with a take going, I wouldn't be surprised Payton Pritchard 6th man of the year this year. 6 months later, here we are. I can't believe it. I talk to Franco. He has the crystal ball, folks.
Yeah, he sure does. I mean, calling that. Well, we did some predictions. I want to say this at the beginning of the season. Me and my sister's boyfriend, and he went with Payton Pritchard 6th man of the year, and I went with Naz Reid. But I asked him a day after the first game. I was like, "Can I switch it to Pritchard?" And he let me. But I don't want to count it now. But like. But
Well,
can we count it?
The
Because
Wolves, they're deep. I had Dante DiVincenzo. I totally understand the Naz Reid take.
but
It's like Jamal Crawford. He won every year. It's like,
Yeah.
What can you do?
But can you guys still give it to me if it was a day after the season started, like after that first game? Can you give it to me then, or do you think it doesn't
Can you
count?
get on a flight after the gates close, Griffin?
You're
No.
right.
We'll give you an asterisk, like the bubble.
I don't know. I feel like no, if you're saying it months ago and we're not even into the season, I feel like that has to count in some capacity. You can't just
If it was All-Star break and I'm like, oh, it's Payton Pritchard, then that's not fair.
Yeah, but if it's the second game this season,
you could give it to me.
Maybe where it gets a little dicey is like maybe like the 4th game or 5th game of the season where he had that Milwaukee performance. Talked about Doc Rivers circling him on the big board, and then he has that moment where he's on his Doc Rivers is literally bent over on his knees, and it's like maybe after that game you start docking points, but before that it's like no, there weren't too many moments where everybody's looking at Payton Pritchard 6th man of the year, but it's like as the season progressed, I feel like you go down.
You hopped on the flight the next day. You missed the first flight.
I missed the first flight, but I hopped on it.
Luckily, though, Pritchard handing out a lot of tickets for flights this season.
He is, yeah, and we gotta mention that I gotta get one of those Pritch Please shirts. I really do. I think I'm slacking. Everyone has a Pritch Please shirt, and I think I need one. I have the cookies and cream one, which was barely even a hit, but now we come out with Pritch Please, and everyone has it. I have to say though, I was on cookies and cream shirts. I still rep my cookies and cream.
I need a cornet on the lob.
Oh yeah,
I like that one.
Corn on the lob.
Corn on the
Oh,
lob.
I love it.
I'm a fan of that one.
I haven't even seen
We-
that one.
Shout out Drew Carter
Okay,
for these.
Drew
okay.
Carter,
Hey,
yeah,
I'm
Drew
just
Carter,
saying.
yeah.
I'm just saying this. Let's shout him out right now. I love Boston sports. Okay, I
Yes.
love Boston sports. Just saying, folks. Just saying.
I
Just
can't believe I'm
saying.
taking this down.
Maybe foreshadowing for the future. That Pritch Police shirt. Hang on, Griffin. Hang on, because I love Boston sports. Shout him out. Right? Shout him out. I love Boston sports.
Look,
I'm just saying. I'm a little foreshadowing. I won't give anything away, but I'll just say that.
mouth closed. I gotta say, I met Porzingis with I Love Boston Sports. Just saying, they're great. They're great. Check them out. Check them out. They're great.
Yes, and this is a company, folks, by the way. I love Boston sports. Obviously, we all love Boston sports.
Yeah.
General statement and
Double
a company.
meaning. Double
And
meaning.
a company.
Yeah, it's
Which is why it's such a great name.
you know.
That's such
It is. I love Boston sports. I do love Boston sports, and you guys should too. Make sure to like and subscribe if you love Boston sports. But that's gonna do it for today. Make sure to go check out the post game show over on Celtics Talk Weekly after the game tonight. The recap should be posted later. I know, me with my internship, man, but I love it. Come see me at the Sea Dogs if you guys want to come get a Sea Dogs biscuit and watch some great Sea Dogs baseball. Gotta give them a quick shout. Love the Sea Dogs. And then just really quick too, we're gonna be posting content all the time. We will see you guys either next week, before or after the series wraps up, depending on which it is. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and watch all of our playoff content because we're pumping it out. We're giving you guys playoff content all year long. Well, all postseason long. That works. But we'll be giving you guys Celtics content all year long. But that's gonna do it. I'm Griffin Aldrich, your host. Alongside me are my co-hosts David Caries, Andrew Quinn, and Seamus Zarlingo. We will see you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
See ya.